Here's a story which not even Hollywood could make up. A woman who wanted to be a nun, but whose parents instead arranged a marriage for her, and whose husband fought in wars, and who founded an order of nuns. She also became the patron saint of car drivers. Frances lived in Rome in the 14th century and wanted to become a nun, but her parents had other ideas and arranged a marriage between her and the commander of the papal armies, Lorenzo Ponciano. The two of them were married and lived happily together for 40 years, even though Lorenzo was often away at war. Frances and her sister often visited the poor and sick of Rome, giving them food and taking care of those who were ill. The city of Rome was largely in ruins at this point in history, and wolves were known to enter the city streets. The plague also ran rampant, and two of Frances's and Lorenzo's children died from the disease. Frances used part of her wealth to begin a hospital, and in 1425 she founded the Oblates of Mary, an organization of pious Christian women. The order received the blessing and approval of Pope Eugene IV in 1433, and the order is still active today, known as the Oblates of St. Francis of Rome. But sadness was to touch her life. Lorenzo was often away at war. He was the commander of the Pope's troops. One of the most important wars that he fought in was a struggle between the legitimate Pope and an anti-Pope. Lorenzo was wounded in that war and forced to return to Rome to the care of his wife. His injuries caught up with him, and he died in the arms of his wife in 1436. When her husband died, Frances became the superior of her order. She died herself 4 years later, being buried in the Church of Santa Maria Nova in Rome, the church the Oblates of Mary were attached to. She was canonized by Pope Paul V in 1608. It was not known where her body was, and so for the next 30 years, the church searched for her remains. They were found in 1638, and she was reburied on March 9, 1649, the date that has since become her feast day. Her body was exhumed in 1869 and placed in a crystal coffin so that she could be venerated by the faithful. In 1925, Pope Pius XI declared her the patron saint of car drivers, because it was said that her guardian angel would go before her with a lamp to light her way whenever she traveled. And on her feast day, a line of cars would form outside the Church of Santa Maria Nova, seeking a blessing. It's a sight that the pious woman who wanted to be a nun and who was humble enough to accept her parents' wishes to marry a soldier would be surprised to see, but one that she would welcome. For her whole life, she wanted nothing more than to help and love those whom she met.